What's going on, guys? Welcome to the BK Sports Show for March 18th, 2024. And on today's episode, we're going to be going over the Chicago Bears making some moves here, trading Justin Fields and trading for Keenan Allen. We're going to be going over Kenny Pickett and Devin White going to the Eagles. And we're also going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns as well. But I am joined today with my good friend, my partner in crime, Benjamin Garcia. How are you doing, my friend?
I am so stoked to be here, ready to get it done on a Monday, no less, getting this podcast out. I'm stoked, man. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's just dive right into it because we got some big news here coming out of the National Football League. Justin Fields has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers traded a 6th-round pick and a conditional 4th-round pick. It could be a conditional 4th-round pick for Justin Fields. Immediately, what do you think about this trade?
Well, I put this out on my Instagram, just from my own show that I do, the Ben Garcia Show on YouTube. I basically said, I was trying to explain to NFL fans, Bears fans, that there's just no market for Justin Fields. There was no market for Justin Fields. And we saw that it was reported that there was multiple teams interested in him, most of them as him as a backup. The Bears let him decide where he was allowed to go. And goodbye them, goodbye doing him right. But this is what happened with Fields, right? There just wasn't a big market. He has not shown, he's shown very minimal flashes that he can be a franchise quarterback in the NFL, but he's, for the most part, majority, 85% of his career has shown he's just not that guy. And teams were saying, hey, listen, you've shown your hand. We know you want Caleb Williams. You waited far too long for you to give up this guy. We're willing to give you a 4th, 5th round, 6th round pick, conditional 4th round pick, but that's it, because we know you have to get rid of him, because we know bringing back Caleb Williams is going to divide the locker room. We know he's had much support there from guys like DJ Moore or other players in the locker room, completely just idolizing Justin Fields. So you couldn't bring him back. You couldn't have those issues in the locker room. You couldn't have half the fan base split between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. You had to get him out. You had to pick a side. And they picked the side of Caleb Williams, the right side, and they took their licks, and they realized this is all we're going to get for him. We're going to take a PR beating for a day or two, and then we're going to move on. I mean, am I wrong here? Are you surprised what they got back?
I'm not surprised at all, because at the end of the day, when a team knows that you want to trade somebody, this is the return that you're going to get. And, my thing to Bears fans is this: ask yourself this question. If this is how the league looked at Justin Fields, why would you want this guy to be your quarterback still, when the league would look at Caleb Williams and say, hey, we'll trade 3 first-round draft picks to go get this guy. He's clearly a more valuable asset. The league looks at him in a much higher light than they look at Justin Fields. And there's no doubt about it, Justin Fields has some potential. But when you look at Justin Fields as a player right now and what he's put on tape over the past 3 seasons, you have to entertain the thought of moving on, which is what the Bears did, because they were in a very special situation to where they weren't a bad team this year, especially towards the later part of the season, and they were in position to get the number 1 overall pick. They can now reset their salary cap for the next few years here when it comes to paying the quarterback position. You have a guy who I think has a way higher ceiling, and you have a roster that you're building around this guy that I'm starting to really like. So I think that this was the right move. I understand why Bears fans like Justin Fields. He's a very hard worker. He's a very easy guy to root for. But at the end of the day, this is about winning Super Bowls. What gets you closer to a Super Bowl? Justin Fields and what you think he could potentially develop into, which he hasn't shown yet in the NFL, or a guy who we look at as one of the best prospects we've seen in a very long time in this upcoming draft. I think that they are now closer to getting to their ultimate goal, which is winning a Super Bowl. And is it going to hurt for some Bears fans out there? Absolutely. But trading Justin Fields and ultimately drafting Caleb Williams is the right move for this franchise.
That was a really good point you made. The whole NFL said to them, hey, this is what he's worth. We're not, who had a better market than Justin Fields this year? Desmond Ridder, Russell Wilson, Jacoby Brissett, Sam Howell, all those guys all had a bigger market than Justin Fields. What does that tell you? Sam Howell went for more than Justin Fields. What does that tell you? That the NFL is telling you, Bears fans, what they think of Justin Fields. And, here's the thing with Justin Fields. Could he someday turn into a franchise quarterback? I don't know. Maybe. It's all about where you land, where you fit. So here's what I will say. I think he has a much greater chance of being a franchise quarterback, fixing some of the issues he's had with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because what do we know about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Incredibly stable, great ownership, great front office, and a head coach who takes no nonsense from anyone. And although I've had my issues with Mike Tomlin, 17 straight winning seasons or something ridiculous for Mike Tomlin, he obviously knows what he's doing. Now, when you have a guy in Justin Fields who couldn't survive in Chicago, couldn't lift the dysfunction up of Chicago on his shoulders because he just wasn't talented enough to do that. Maybe Caleb Williams can do that, but look at Baker Mayfield. Neither of us, you and I both don't think Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. We think he's above that. We think to solve any argument, we all think Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, like just there, right? Well, Baker Mayfield and his talents weren't great enough to lift up the dysfunction of the Cleveland Browns. And it's all about where you go. Does anyone really think Lamar Jackson would be as successful as he is in the NFL, two-time MVP, if he landed with the Cleveland Browns? No. It's because he landed with a stable organization in the Baltimore Ravens. So I like the deal for Justin Fields, and it sucks for the Chicago Bears, who have to take their licks for a couple of weeks, couple of days. Who knows? The Chicago media is not easy like it is in some of the other smaller states, smaller cities. But, overall, I think it's a great fit for Justin Fields, and it's probably the best place for him to develop into a franchise quarterback, although I still have my doubts. It's a much better place for him to go than, say, I don't know, the Browns or the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of those organizations that are historically incredibly dysfunctional.
And not only that, I think Caleb Williams is going to be in a very good situation here in Chicago. When you talk about teams with the first overall pick over the past few years, this probably has to be the best team that's had it in a long time. I think that the Chicago Bears are getting more towards being a stable franchise. I know that sounds crazy to say because of their past few seasons here, but it only takes really a season for a team to turn around and for people to have a different opinion on that particular team. Look at the Lions, for example. People have a much higher opinion on the Lions now. They got a new GM a few years ago. He did some really good things with that football team. And now we look at them as a team that's, hey, look, they're going to be a legit contender here for the next few years. And even though I've had my criticisms of Ryan Poles and some of the moves that he's made, I think that he has shown improvement as a GM. I think that this team is headed towards being a very good football team here. And man, if Caleb Williams has a CJ Stroud level rookie season with the pieces that they have on this team, they're going to be a team to be messing with in the NFC for a long time.
Yeah. Let's kind of go to that conversation really quickly, because I know you have a very high opinion of Caleb Williams. Let me ask you, do you think Caleb Williams is talented enough to be able to lift this Bears franchise up off the ground? Because given the fact that over the last 20 years, it's just been dysfunctional, they've never had a 4,000-yard passer. Is he finally going to be the franchise quarterback for the Chicago Bears?
Yes, I absolutely believe that, because I do think that the Bears are starting to go more towards being a good football team here. I really believe that. Some of the moves that they made, I've been a big fan of. They have 2 top 10 picks in this draft. They're going to draft the best quarterback prospect in this draft, and they could potentially add another guy to their offensive line. Their defense was pretty good down the stretch. I anticipate that that's going to be a good defense next year. And I don't think that this is a bad football team that he's going into. And I think that he's the type of quarterback that's going to be able to elevate a team. We've seen that over the course of his college career. USC hasn't been relevant in a really long time. And yes, it was a rough season for them this past year, but they almost made the college football playoffs in 2022. And it wasn't like that was a great roster that he was playing on. This is a guy that had to go into every single game with the feeling that he had to score 50 plus points for his team to be competitive. That's a different type of pressure that's put on a quarterback. I don't think that he's going to have that pressure going into Chicago. They invested at the running back position. They have some good guys there. I really like their play caller, Shane Waldron. He was with the Seattle Seahawks. If you can make Geno Smith look like a really damn good quarterback, which is what he did in 2022, I look at Caleb Williams' skill set, his talent, and I think that Shane Waldron will get the best out of him. And that's a guy who I think we could potentially be looking at as a head coaching candidate. So I do think that he is the guy that can be that franchise quarterback that the Bears have been looking for. And I don't think that the Bears franchise is going to drag him down, because I think their franchise is heading in a different direction.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, the tangibles have always been there. He's an elite level thrower. He's insanely accurate. He's very mobile. I will never compare someone to Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes could quite possibly be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. But man, he kind of does look like Patrick Mahomes, and a lot of the things he does, it makes it look effortless with the way he flicks the ball. It just goes 60 yards just with a little flick. Some of the throws he makes cross body are such a high degree of difficulty that he makes. My issues with Caleb Williams have never been, does he have the skill set? My issues have always been the intangibles. We live in an NIL, get your money early. These guys don't come in incredibly starved and ready to prove themselves, ready for that second contract, ready to come in as the poor rookie, ready to make all the money in the world, ready to show their lead. Like, they come in kind of like, yeah, I'm the man. I won the Heisman. I've got a $7 million NIL deal. I'm not starving for money. I'm going to be perfectly fine. My issue with Caleb Williams has always been emotional. He's a little immature. I don't like the crying in the crowd to your mother. This isn't the, oh, men shouldn't cry. Like, there's a time and a place for it. And losing your third game in which you weren't making the college football playoff already, you likely weren't making the Pac-12 championship game, you go over there and you cry, and then you go to the media and say that you just want to go home, eat ice cream, and watch movies like a teenage girl that just got broken up with her boyfriend, or it just, a lot of the things he did were so questionable. The painting on, I don't care if you paint your nails. I don't really, do whatever you want to do, man. I don't care. But when you paint on your nails, F Utah, that just doesn't scream franchise quarterback to me in an intangible sense. For me, it's just, you have to be more emotionally mature to be in that position. I don't care what a wide receiver does. I don't care what a linebacker does. I don't care what a running back does. Tyreek Hill, this is wrong, by the way. Tyreek Hill is on his second team and is seen as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And he's gotten in trouble for domestic violence 3 times now. And it's not a huge deal. It should be. It's not a huge deal because he's a wide receiver. But if he was a quarterback, it would be everywhere because you expect way more maturity from that guy. Now, that's a terrible thing, and that's something that should be handled. But for some reason, we all just look past it because we say, oh, vroom, vroom, very fast wide receiver, and he catches the ball. Like with Caleb Williams, he can't act like Kyler Murray did for the first 4 years, which was, I'm the best player on this team. I'm, head above shoulders against everyone else. I'm the man. I won the Heisman, $7 million. Because in the NFL, they don't care. You will have a target on your back when you're as hyped as a quarterback prospect as Caleb Williams has been. He's got to figure out the end. Remember, he asked for ownership. That was a real thing.
I don't think that was, I don't.
That came out later. That came out later on that his father had talked about. Listen, it was never going to happen. But the fact that it was floated out there, any of that stuff, I don't like the fact that his dad runs this campaign. I think it's weird. You can even. I just don't love the whole Caleb Williams shtick in terms of, I am this amazing God tier quarterback. You got to be humble coming in the NFL. Otherwise, you will get humbled. Granted, I do think he'll figure it out because men mature at different times, but it's something he does need to figure out.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point that you bring up about the intangibles with Caleb Williams. I just believe in his talent so much that I can deal, because here's the thing. I can deal with some of the higher than now, intangible stuff because he's a quarterback at the end of the day. I get it. It's not great, but at the end of the day, it's not like he's getting in trouble with the law off the field. So I can deal with some of that if he's going to come in here and be as good as we think he can be. So that's where I'll counter that. But I do understand where you're coming from the quarterback position. It's definitely something that you need to look out for. So another trade that they made was Keenan Allen coming over from the Chargers. So I'm going to ask you two questions. One, how much does this help out the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams? And two, what are the Chargers doing over there?
Yeah, for the Chicago Bears, it's interesting. He's kind of a brittle wide receiver. He's had an injury past. He's really expensive, and he's kind of older. We don't know when these wide receivers are going to take a dip, but here's the counterpoint to that. His athleticism has never been what's made Keenan Allen Keenan Allen. His speed has never been what's made Keenan Allen Keenan Allen. For him, it's always been he's a really big body and he's so technical that his route running is one of that's his biggest thing, right? And it's like a jump shot in basketball. If your jumper is always good, you're going to be like Kevin Durant. You're going to play forever. You might not be able to bang bodies with people down low, but you'll always have your shot doesn't really go away. Your legs usually stay the same for forever. That's why Kevin Durant's been good for forever because he's a 7-foot jump shooter and it's just impossible to guard. And so with Keenan Allen, the route running is just so good and he's not getting shorter anytime soon. So he's still going to be a big red zone threat. I love it for the Chicago Bears. I wonder how much time Keenan Allen really has, but for the Los Angeles Chargers, there's no loyalty is so overrated in this sport. And so when people to kind of talk about like, well, the Los Angeles Chargers, he wouldn't take a pay cut. Like owners aren't loyal to cities. Teams aren't loyal to players or coaches, and players should be the same exact way. Loyalty is incredibly overrated. And so when Keenan Allen decided that he was going to not take a pay cut and was going to come in and be the guy on the Chicago Bears, I think it was a great move for him. I think it was a great move for the Chicago Bears. For the Chargers, I have such respect for Jim Harbaugh that I just assumed that they were going to make the playoffs the very first year. I've got to see what they do post-draft because their wide receiver one right now is Quentin Johnston. So we now know that they're going to have to go wide receiver in the draft, and they need multiple picks to help figure out that team. The Los Angeles Chargers went from a playoff team for me to just on the outside looking in until we see what they do in the draft.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Touching on the Keenan Allen trade, I like this trade for the Bears. I understand he's a bit more expensive, but when you have a rookie quarterback and you have the type of cap space that they have, you can afford to overpay certain players that bring something to the table like Keenan Allen does. Keenan Allen is a reliable receiver. And when you bring in a young quarterback, you want guys around him that are going to be reliable, which is why I really like this trade. And, to be honest with you, I think that they could stand to go get another receiver as well. If somebody falls to them in the draft, I wouldn't be opposed to them drafting another receiver because then you bring in Caleb Williams and he has DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and let's just say Rome Odunze to throw the football to, along with Cole Kmet and an okay offensive line. I think that this is an offense that's going to be able to put points on the board, and it's going to be a really good place for a young quarterback to be. As far as the Chargers go, I don't have as much expectations as a lot of other people for Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. I don't think this is a very good roster at all. I think that the coaching is going to help them, but at the same time, they really did struggle to win games last year. And, like you said, Quentin Johnston is their number one receiver. Maybe they go and draft Malik Neighbors. I think that that's the right course of action for that football team. But again, I don't love what they have on the defensive side of the football. I don't think that they have great pieces on offense outside of the quarterback and potentially the wide receiver that they bring in. I think that they're very far away. And, for the people that make a ton of excuses for Justin Herbert, I think that they're going to have a leg to stand on this upcoming season because I don't think this is going to be a very good team. And I think ultimately they're probably going to be in a position to draft high again at this time next season.
Sorry, I might mute you there. No, the debate for Justin Herbert's going to be interesting this year, and I'll just kind of close on this for the whole Chargers Bears debate here. But the Justin Herbert thing is going to be interesting because I previously said it is go time for Justin Herbert. There are no more excuses because I've had some worries about Justin Herbert. I think, like everyone else, he's awesome, but we're still kind of waiting to see it go on the field. But Brandon Staley was so bad that you were like, you have to give this guy a real head coach before you can make a judgment on him. So people are going to be really harsh on Justin Herbert this year if they don't make the playoffs again, because people are going to say, what's the excuse now? You got Jim Harbaugh. And then everyone will be like, yeah, but Keenan Allen's gone. Austin Eckler's gone. The offensive weapons aren't there. And the offensive line's kind of subpar. So the Justin Herbert argument is going to get really dicey this year. And we're going to be able to see, like, is Justin Herbert the guy? Like, we all think he is, and we all think he's awesome. But if they miss the playoffs again, people are going to start coming for Justin Herbert's head. But I'm going to ease back on that until I see it, because Brandon Staley was just so bad at his job that you couldn't make an astute assessment. So I'm just kind of curious how that will all play out this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not going to go hard on Herbert this upcoming season. I understand the roster that they have. It's not a great organization by any standards, and yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I do think that he elevates that organization, but you know, it's going to be tough for him this upcoming season. So let's move on to the next topic. Philadelphia Eagles continue to make moves. They have added Kenny Pickett and Devin White to their football team. Do you think that these moves are going to improve the Eagles to the point to where they're back to being NFC contenders?
So I'll be really quick on the Eagles because there's just not much for Eagles fans are so funny. They've been in my mention saying, "Oh, we got Devin White and we improved so much. We got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson." Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had a lot of issues in the secondary this past year. He was good for you guys, wasn't great for the Lions this past year. So we'll see how that works out with them leading one of the worst Lions secondaries. And then Devin White, ask yourself this, Eagles fans. If Devin White is so good on a team that has cap space in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, why did they let Devin White go? Maybe it's because he's a really, really poor tackler as a linebacker, something you should be really good at. He's incredibly athletic. It was like the Isaiah Simmons thing. Everyone thought the Cardinals got fleeced when Isaiah Simmons was gone until people realized he's a subpar tackler and he can't cover anyone. He can't cover grass. So Devin White, there's a reason why he's on the market. He's not very good. No matter when you play with him on Madden and he's really fast and gets a lot of interceptions, he's not a very good linebacker. There's a reason why he only got 1 year and $5 million with an Eagles team that has cap space. To ask yourself, if he was really that good, why didn't they lock him up long term? Because they have legitimate questions about him. The Eagles did not get much improved. Kenny Pickett, cool. Jalen Hurts just came off a very suspect season. And so for him to have someone like Kenny Pickett, a former first-round pick, maybe the Eagles find something out of him. Maybe Jalen Hurts isn't the guy. I don't think that. I think he is. But it's nice. And also, when you're paying Jalen Hurts a ton of money, it was like the Kyler Murray, Desmond Ridder thing. You're not going to allocate $55 million to the quarterback position. And what does Kenny Pickett make? Not a ton of money as a backup quarterback. And he's young. Could fit the system a little bit better than whoever else it was. So it's fine. I don't think it adds any wins. And I think Devin White, just so you know, Eagles fans, he's not good. I don't know. Am I crazy here? Do you think Devin White is this elite talent? Because I'm athletically, he's awesome. Coverage and especially tackling, he's really bad.
Yeah, no, he's really bad. He's really
bad. He's really bad.
This is what I love. So Devin White has graded poorly on PFF for years now. I love how people go after PFF when they rate their players poorly, but then they praise PFF when they rate their players highly. PFF is usually right when it comes to some of these players. For the most cases, they're spot on. And what Devin White has put on tape over the last few years is not anywhere close to a decent linebacker. He's not good. And this is a Howie Roseman special where he gets a big name that gets his fan base all up in arms, those delusional Eagles fans, because that's what they are. They're the most delusional fan base in the entire game. Okay. They got a big name. It gets their fan base excited. He is not a good football player, and they're not much better at that position than they were last year. This is what I don't understand, right? So they'll sit there, Eagles fans will tell you, well, he's better than what we had last year. You didn't have anything last year, and then they'll turn around and tell you how they're going to go to the Super Bowl and win it with this addition. So better than last year is good enough to win a Super Bowl. This team has not improved nearly as much as people thought that they would. And I'm not just saying this because I root for the Cowboys. I'm not. I look at this team and I say, Bryce Huff, that's a lateral move if you get rid of Reddick. Saquon Barkley, he's an improvement at running back. How much from Swift? I don't know. Devin White's not that much of an improvement at linebacker. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, decent enough safety, but at the same time, he's an injury-prone player. I don't think this team is much better than what they were last year. And I don't understand how we're in the offseason and we still don't know what this team was last year. They were a team of 2 seasons. They were a tale of 2 seasons last year. So, going on to the Kenny Pickett trade, I do like that trade a lot for the Eagles because this is a guy that they really liked coming out of college. I don't think he was dealt a great hand in Pittsburgh. And I think that coming into the Eagles system, being a backup quarterback could definitely be a great thing for his career. And at the very least, I think that the Eagles, if Kenny Pickett looks good in that system with the talent that they have around them, because let's not forget, Gardner Minshew had some really high-level flashes with the Eagles in that 22 season. In that Dallas game, he played really good football. If Kenny Pickett plays like that, they could potentially get a trade out of this guy that is greater than what they gave up to go get the guy. So I like the move from that perspective. But overall, as a team, I don't think they're much improved.
I just think it's so funny that you called it the Howie Roseman special.
Well, I mean,
if anyone missed what we talked about last week, is Chris here was going after Howie Roseman for being the most overrated GM in the NFL. And as I start to, I'm not ready to call him the most overrated GM in the NFL. But as I start to kind of keep a keen eye to things, the first thing I thought of when I saw the Devin White signing was, oh, great. Can't wait to have Eagles fans in my mentions about telling me how great Devin White is, when in reality, he's really bad. He's really, really bad. He's really athletic. He's like Isaiah Simmons. He's insanely fast. He's not super tall, but he is 6'2", 6'3". He's not insanely short, but it's like people played with him in Madden. I call Isaiah Simmons a Madden football player because they're insane in Madden. He's 6'4" as a linebacker and runs a sub 4.4 40. And he's insanely athletic. And they watch his highlight film in college. And all you have to do is be insanely talented in college. And then you just are appraised as seen as this high, awesome guy. And people never actually watch the game film. Devin White is really, really bad. I don't even know if it's a lateral move. It might be worse. It might be worse than what they had on the field last year, but I digress there.
Yeah, dude, I watched some of his tape because an Eagles fan challenged me to watch some of his tape. I'll send you some of the clips that I got.
So
it's not good. But so on to our last topic. The Phoenix Suns played the Milwaukee Bucks today and lost by a score of 140 to 129. The game wasn't as close as the score indicates.
No.
What are your thoughts on the Phoenix Suns? Do you think that they can compete for a championship?
So I'm only going to spend a few minutes on this. We're going to continue to talk a lot more basketball when the NBA playoffs go on a little bit later. But the Phoenix Suns are a high leverage team. People keep a keen eye to them because Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, people are going to keep a real eye on them because everyone's kind of rooting for them to fail because of the superstars. Devin Booker is not likable to everyone else outside of Phoenix. Here's what I'll say to Suns fans. Their problems are fixable. Well, I guess I should say main problem is fixable. However, I don't think it's going to get fixed. The Phoenix Suns just show no effort. They just show no effort at times. This is a team that rolls out the ball and just assumes, because they have Devin Booker, because they have Bradley Beal, because they have Kevin Durant, that they're just going to win games. And at times when they really apply themselves, like today in the Bucks game, they immediately got right into it, cut a 25-point lead down to like 7 points. And at one point, it looked like they could win this game. But the problem is, when you don't give that kind of effort for 48 minutes, you're just going to lose the game. And when you give up 6 3, like people will look at the Al Horford thing and say, well, he gave up 6 3-pointers to Al Horford. That's an anomaly. He won't make that again. I challenge you to go watch the film on that game. Every three is wide open. Bobby Portis today, 5 3-pointers, wide open. This is a team that just does not care enough on defense, and they're not bad defenders. I am of the belief that you don't need a team of like a bunch of elite defenders, whether it's Mikal Bridges or Marcus Smart or insert elite level defender here. You just need to have willing defenders. And this Suns team does not have willing defenders. Devin Booker at times is a willing defender. Kevin Durant at times is a willing defender, but these are just at times. And watching that Boston Celtics game, this team is so freaking soft. When they were willing defenders, Bradley Beal was getting backed down by Jason Tatum. Bradley Beal was getting backed down by Jaylen Brown and easily getting taken to the cup. These team's problems are fixable. I just don't think they will get fixed because you have to be a willing defender, and they just aren't willing defenders for 48 minutes. They take plays off. They're letting guys wide open. Devin Booker at one point was just staring at guys as they're launching 3-pointers, hoping they miss it. At this rate, the only way this team can win a championship is if there's 4 games out of a series that the opposing team just goes cold. Because this isn't like the Dallas Mavericks in 2022 where they beat the Suns and everyone just kind of makes fun of the Suns. But the issue in that series was the Dallas Mavericks were just hitting tough contested threes that they weren't hitting in the following round against the Golden State Warriors. So I was like, what are you going to do? They're just hitting everything. There was a stat where they were hitting shots that were like 10% successful rate of the Dallas Mavericks 3-point shots. They were just hitting them. And the Phoenix Suns were having that problem against the Dallas Mavericks. Now they just don't have willing defenders. And if you're a Suns fan, it's hard for you to get really upset and care if they don't care. If they just think they're going to roll the ball out in the playoffs, turn it on, and beat everyone, it's just not going to happen. This is a team at this point right now, I don't think they get out of the play-in tournament. This is a team right now that if they finish with the 6th seed, I don't think they win a playoff series. And that is such a disappointment for this team that's got Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant, that when they are on the floor and they are applying themselves, they can beat anyone. I've watched it. They step their game up for some teams like Denver and for a half against Boston. They can beat anyone when they apply themselves. The problem is they just have an issue turning that switch on and applying themselves. They don't have willing defenders. And if you're a Suns fan, it's really hard for you to get emotionally invested and emotionally care if this team just doesn't care for half the game. They care for stretches. They care for 2 or 3 minute intervals, but they just don't care. This team is incredibly soft. I don't think it's fixable before the time the playoffs happen. I just don't think you can flick a switch. The problems itself, being a willing defender, carrying on defense, having more pride in your game is fixable. I just don't think it will get fixed by the time the playoffs run around. Sorry I ranted there, but it's a real issue. I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but this is something that when they lose in the playoffs in the first round or in the play-in tournament, there's going to be a lot of flack. And Suns fans aren't willing to start to come to the realization Kevin Durant could be gone in the summertime. They're going to have to get those acquisitions back by getting rid of Kevin Durant. And here's something that if the Suns keep spiraling down this road and they don't get enough in the Kevin Durant trade, they're closer to trading Devin Booker than you think. And that's going to hurt really bad when that happens.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, one thing when you talk about effort, I look at coaching when it comes to that. And I'm very tired of the NBA and these franchises going to these retread coaches time and time and time again. How many times has Doc Rivers gotten a job? How many times has Frank Vogel gotten a job? I understand he won a championship out in LA. I get that. Okay. But I look at the Boston Celtics as, outside of the Warriors, the best organization in the sport, right? Like, I get that they haven't won the finals in 15 years. I think that's going to
2008.
change this year.
Mhm.
2008. Yep. I think that's going to change this year. But what do? When they're looking to replace a coach, they go hire Brad Stevens from the college ranks. They bring up Ime Udoka, who is an assistant head coach, Joe Mazzulla, assistant head coach. And I think that more teams should take that risk into bringing in an assistant head coach, giving them a chance instead of going through these retreads and knowing what you're going to get out of these guys. And when it comes to the Phoenix Suns, I think that, a few years ago when they made the finals, their biggest strength was how deep they were, how many good players they had to complement a borderline elite or elite player, whatever way you want to look at him, in Devin Booker. So, when it comes to the Phoenix Suns, I think that they have the talent to beat anybody in the NBA. It's one of those teams, right? Like the Brooklyn Nets a few seasons ago, to where you say, all right, I want nothing to do with this team in the first round because they have the guys that could beat anybody in an opening round. But when it comes to the effort, like you were talking about, that is not a small thing. And I don't think that that's just a switch you can just flip on come playoff time. I think that that's something that you need to establish over the course of a season and have that consistency going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and let me just close on this because I know we're running short on time. Frank Vogel just won't make adjustments. There's a reason why the Phoenix Suns ran Monty Williams out of town, and rightfully so. They should have ran Monty Williams out of town. He was a poor adjustment game-to-game guy. He was a good culture builder, and he inspired teams well. That's really good for young teams. That's not really good for teams that are ready to win a championship right now. He almost got lucky in 2021. They squandered that because he didn't make adjustments to a coach that at times was bad at making adjustments too, in Mike Budenholzer. So you have Frank Vogel now. Frank Vogel waits way too late to make a real adjustment on a game-to-game basis. Frank Vogel, after Thursday's game against the Boston Celtics, said, we're just not there yet, but we're going to get there. That Boston Celtics team is there. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there. Well, when is it, Frank? Because there's like 15 games left. When is it that you're actually going to get it together? Because Bol is playing 5 minutes, and Royce O'Neal has just simply been a net negative in like the past 10 games for the Phoenix Suns. He played decently against the Bucks today or yesterday on Sunday when it was. He played decently, but you have got to make that adjustment way quicker. Frank Vogel has a real issue of making game-to-game, situation-by-situation adjustments. And I know Suns fans want to run him out of town, and he's going to get ran out of town when this team falls short of expectations in the playoffs. Like at this point, I think they're going to do. But you need to be able to look at the situation on hand and go, all right, Royce O'Neal doesn't have it tonight. We got to switch this out. There's no reason Bol, who has been a net positive for like 2 months now, is only playing max 15 minutes a night. Frank Vogel has the same issues as Monty Williams. He's not changing things on a game-to-game, situation-to-situation basis. He's getting out-coached daily, every night against Joe Mazzulla, who's not a great head coach, against whoever the boss, Doc Rivers, who's not a great head coach either. We've seen him lose all the time, come up short in the playoffs. He's got one ring in 2008, and since then, Stu Gatz. The Suns have not only an effort issue, but a real issue in Frank Vogel, who looking in a mirror just looks like Monty Williams at this point. But I digress. I'm done, and hopefully I never have to watch that team play lifeless basketball again.
Don't count on that. Oh man, yeah. Look, both of us are going through it with our basketball teams right now. Me with the Sixers and you with the Suns.
At least I'll always have the Diamondbacks over your Phillies.
Ain't that the truth? So, okay, that is going to do it for the second episode of the BK Sports Show. Dude, it feels like we've been doing like 100 shows with the type of chemistry we have just right off the bat, man. I'm really enjoying it.
We're the best show with 12 subscribers that I've ever seen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to know what? We're going to be the next Mike and the Mad Dog. So,
oh man, except you're going to be Mad Dog. I don't want to be Mad Dog.
Are you absolutely kidding me? This guy stinks.
At this point, he's got to be forcing that accent, but either way,
I know.
people don't want to hear us talk about it.
Oh man. Well, it was a pleasure, my friend, and I look forward to doing this again.
Don't call me your friend. I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
All right.